What's up, family? Just brief before I get started, I just want to let you know what I'm doing right now for the next 30 days, starting in September. I'm on a challenge to do 30 minutes a day of just free thought thinking based on certain topics. It's just a little challenge that I have for myself to get better at, speaking for longer times and things of that sort. So here we go. All right. So tonight we're going to talk about the illusion of self. Um, for anybody who's ever been on their spiritual journey, or you've had something that made you look in the mirror and ask yourself, who are you? Then you understand the illusion of self. Now, for anyone who has not been on some sort of spiritual journey or self journey, or embarked on something in their life which made them look into the mirror and ask the question, who am I? Why am I here? Who really are you? You know, um, then you'll understand the illusion of self. The illusion of self is the illusion that we believe who we really are based off of society, based off the environments we were growing up in, based off of the people we've grown up around who shaped and molded us to who we are today. That's the illusion of who you really are, but that's not really who you are. Sometimes you have to strip all those things away. You have to strip away the environments that you're used to. You have to strip away all the programming that's been inputted into you from the people around you, from the TV. You have to strip all that away. And you have to be by yourself, in a sense. You have to be in a place where it's just your thoughts, you and God, or you and the universe, however you believe. But you have to get to that point where it's just you. And once you get to that point, you start discovering who you really are and what you really like. There was a certain time when we were kids, or there was a certain time in our lives where peer pressure wasn't so great. And it allowed us to do what we really wanted to do. So you might have been a person who, as a kid, liked to draw. But as you got older, or you started hanging around certain people, that liking to draw might have faded or ceased due to society pressures around you, due to other kids maybe probably making fun of you, or other things in your environment that kind of grew and caught your attention more than the drawing. And those things that caught your attention more probably caught your attention because of what that outcome could bring more so than drawing. Meaning, the outcome of drawing was just probably personal gratification. And the things that you turned to when you turned away from the drawing probably brought you some sort of gratification from the outside people, friends or your peers or a girl that you may like. So let me put it like this. In elementary school, you probably like drawing, but everybody around you probably played some kind of like little league football or something like that, And you saw how they were getting attention from all the, let's say for instance, the opposite sex, So all the girls liked all the boys who played little league football. And you admired that attention that those young men got. And you weren't so fond of the attention that you did not get when you were just drawing. So now you give up drawing and you pick up football, which football wasn't really your thing to begin with, but it's something you did in order to fit in. So now let's say that you're actually pretty good at football. And years go by, now you get to the point where you can play in college or professionally. So now you've identified yourself as a professional football player, because that's the illusion that you have of yourself due to just the path of life. But is that really who you are? You know? So now let's say that you're this football player and you're the stereotypical football player, everything that comes with it, you know? So let's say the nice life. Not saying stereotypical as far as behavior and things of that sort that far, but you know, just the cars, the fame, the money, you know, the popularity, the physical being, you know, the stature, the physical stature. Let's say all those things were in place, right? At that point, you start identifying yourself as that because that's what got you that attention. But you personally know deep down inside, you don't identify with that. It's almost like a role. It's almost like a movie role that you're putting on. But you've been putting it on for so long that you believe that it's you. You know, that's what I believe a lot of people who live in this illusion of self, they're actors. You know, they haven't really discovered who they really are. So they're just playing this role that's been given to them. But I digress. So we have this guy, and he's identified himself as a football player. And later on down the line, he starts asking himself, why do I feel unfulfilled? Why do I feel like I'm not doing enough? Or this doesn't make me feel whole, you know? And these type of questions start coming about when you start living your life based off of the illusion that's been given to you. When you live your life based off of the illusion that's given to you, you're going to feel empty. And the reason is because you're not fulfilling your soul. Your soul can really only be fulfilled with your purpose. Again, your soul can only be fulfilled with your purpose. If you're doing things that society or the illusion has told you that you should be doing, you won't feel whole, you won't feel complete. You'll always feel like purposeless, you know? That's why you have millionaires, rich people who feel empty. It's because they've done what society has told them to, but they don't feel that completeness, that wholeness. And like I said, that wholeness can only come when you are on your God-given purpose. So let's go back to this football player now. In elementary school, he started drawing. Then he gave up the drawing due to society pressures and things of that sort because he wanted to be popular or be liked or the attention or whatever. So he started playing football. Come to find out he's pretty good at football. He goes professional, right? Plays professional, da-da-da-da-da. So now he's at this point of his professional career where he's still living in this illusion, but now he's willing to start exploring. He starts asking himself these questions: why do I not feel whole? He starts asking himself these questions: why am I here? You know, those questions that you start asking. And little by little, he starts backtracking to what used to make him feel whole as a kid. And the thing that used to make him feel whole as a kid, as he remembers, is drawing. So now watch this. He starts drawing little by little. And he notices the days that he draws, he gets more excitement out of life. His days become happy. Just those 30 minutes that he sets aside every day to draw is the best 30 minutes he has of that day compared to being a football player. The attention he gets from being a football player. You know, the clubs or practice or going out in public or having the nice clothes, the cars, the money, buying whatever you want, you know, living wherever you want, dating whoever you want, all that. He finds more enjoyment in that 30 minutes of drawing than all that he has accomplished and able to do. At this point, he is now stripping the illusion of who he thought he was. And now he's remembering who he really is before that programming was put into him. He's remembering he's this shy, quiet kid that just likes to draw. He's remembering all these things. So now as he's peeling back the layers of what society has told him he was, he's becoming more aligned with who he really is. He's this shy, quiet kid who likes to draw. And these drawings that he has are able to help other people you know, not in the specifics, but whatever draw, not in the specifics of what he's drawing, because this whole story is hypothetical, but the type of drawings that he has the ability for people to look at it and feel some kind of completeness or feel some kind of healing powers from it. So this is how the illusion of self has been put onto people and taking them away from what they're really here for. This illusion of self happens with almost everybody who gets into society pressures or gets into fitting in with what society has told them or their peers have told them, their environment has told them, and all this. And as I sit back and study it, this happens not just in the black community, because in the black community it can go two ways, two popular ways. You have the quote unquote, for lack of a better term, the hip hop culture or ghetto culture or whoever you speak to is how they will address that type of culture. When we're talking about black people, you have the hip hop culture or rap culture or ghetto culture, whatever, and then you have the bourgeoisie culture. So the hip hop or ghetto culture would be, the things that address with the lower nature of being a black person, just in general, I guess. I'm in the middle, so I'm not talking about anybody. I'm just talking about, just the generalities of things. So when we're talking about the hip hop culture, a little bit of degeneracy is added into that. Let's just leave it at that. Degeneracy. And that's what some people identify as, their apartments that they grew up in, their sets, their cliques, certain types of ways of living, the struggle living, not trusting people. Even those type of mindsets can be an illusion that's been put on people. So certain type of mindsets are not being able to trust people, or not being able to give to other people, help other people because of lack of resources and things of that sort. All these things encompass a certain type of mindset and certain type of ideology that people follow in this sector of living in an illusion. And we're talking about black culture. So that's one way, and the other way is the bourgeoisie culture. So now you have people who want to identify as being an American, who want to identify as being productive, want to identify as all these things. And what happens is now they go to school, and they don't go to school necessarily for the cause of helping. They go to school in the reason of receiving that certificate, that diploma, to say that now they're stamped as being an official person. They're stamped at being they get this stamp, or they get this type of acceptance from these higher institutions that says you are somebody now. You can work in my environment now. You're accepted. And so now once you're accepted into this culture or this realm of life, now to keep up, you buy the German vehicle, the BMWs and the Mercedes. And now you leave the old environments that you're in. Now you go live in the nicer neighborhoods, the more expensive neighborhoods. And now you don't wear the same clothes that you used to. You wear the more expensive clothes. And you don't eat at McDonald's no more, Del Taco no more. You eat at Morton's and you eat at Ruth Chris. And you're doing all these things to create this new illusion of an image of who you are. This isn't really what you're doing, but now you're playing this game. See, living in an illusion is really just playing a game to keep up with what society's telling you that you should do. But I digress. So now you have the bourgeoisie who joins the fraternities and the sororities and all these things, not necessarily because they want to live up to what they're really for. No, they're doing it in order to move through society. They join these fraternities and sorority groups in order to be able to have more connections. Which one of these groups can assist me in having more connections when I graduate in order for me to land me in a better position. All this is the illusion of self. Because people still cling on to these things people still cling on to these things 20, 30, 40, 50 years afterwards, Even, okay, hold on. So that breaks down just how, even in black culture, people can live in an illusion. Just because people think that they went to college, they're not living in a certain illusion, or they're not brainwashed, like some of our cousins are, who may live in certain different environments, who might not have went the college route. You got some who went the college route, some who went the street pharmacist route. It's still the same thing. You're not living your true purpose. You're not living in your true being. You're not living truly who you are. You've accepted some illusion to live in order for acceptance into the world, or your world. And like I said, this is just an example for my people. But this happens in all other cultures where people have given up who they are and accepted some sort of illusion to fit in. And this is why people feel empty deep down inside. This is why people feel like there's more to life. This is why people feel like really unsuccessful when on the outside they're successful. It's because they haven't really lived in their true purpose of who they are. And I honestly will say that if you're a person who never really got to live who you are, it's almost like a sin, for lack of a better word. I can't think of a better word that has as much impact as saying it's a sin. But it's almost like unrighteous, because that's the experience of life. It's to live your life. And I feel like all these illusions that's been put on people is almost not fair. It's not fair that you haven't been able to experience life the way that it was intended for you personally. That now that we've given into these illusions, you're not able to truly experience life. Now, whose fault is that? Is it the sheep or the shepherd? It's a good question. Sometimes I blame the sheep, but a lot of times I blame the shepherd. Until the sheep really recognizes what's going on. And then once the sheep recognizes and the sheep doesn't change, then it's the sheep's fault. But we're living in a time now where people have identified with their profession. And haven't you noticed, like, when the economy does something funny or people lose their jobs, people lose all identity of self? That's how you know they're caught up. This person who's a doctor or this person who's a lawyer, they have these good jobs and all this stuff, right? But they identify themselves with these schools that they went to, these sororities or fraternities that they signed up to be a part of, these neighborhoods that they live in. And it's not just going for black people or white people, it's like everybody. These jobs and occupations and all this stuff. People have identified with all these things, right? And that's what gives them their identity. And that's the total polar opposite of how it should be. That's not who you are. Like, your profession is a doctor. Your profession is a lawyer. That's what you do. But that's not who you are. You're not a doctor. You're not a lawyer. So many times people have identified themselves with these things, and that's how they judge people as well. A lot of times that's why people ask, who are you? That's why a lot of people ask, what do you do? so they can figure out what kind of box to put you in, so they can figure out how much respect to give you, or what kind of where you rank on the social ladder. And that's not how it should be. Instead of asking, you know what I'm saying, what do you do? We should start asking people, who are you? You know, how many times have you been asked, who are you? Not like what your name is, what is your name? No, like really, who are you? Next time, ask somebody, who are they? Instead of asking somebody, what do they do? Ask them, who are they? And watch how they get stumbled. Because now people have to go in and ask themselves, who am I? And I bet you, 8 or 9 times out of 10, if you ask somebody, who are they won't know how to answer you. Or they may come up with an answer, it may take them a while. But it won't be as fast as when you ask them, what do you do for a living? And that shows you right there, we've identified what we do as a living is who we are. We've identified, if you ask somebody, who are you? And they say, I'm a doctor. They have identified as a doctor, and they don't understand that that's just a profession. Where if you take a step back and you ask them, who are you? They might really just be a healer. See? And imagine if they've identified themselves as a healer instead of a doctor. Now their practice may change of how they heal people. Now their thoughts and processes may change of how they handle and deal with people and how they may view themselves. So they may really want to help people, but they go with the guidelines of, you know, actually being a doctor versus being a healer. So now being a healer, they may bring in different practices and different thoughts and ideologies and different energy to their situations to have different outcomes because of how they position themselves and strip the illusion. And I said, it's just so many illusions out here that we've identified as, and this illusion game of who you are, which is really strip people away from who they really are. You know, haven't you noticed, like, when the economy tanks up and money gets bad, people start deleting themselves? Haven't you noticed that? And the reason for that is because they feel like life is no longer worth living. They feel like they've run away from who they really are for so long, and they lived in this illusion of the nice condo, of the nice BMW, of the nice clothes and the nice food. And they lived in that illusion for so long, and they've allowed that to be who they are for so long that when that thing gets stripped from them, they don't know who they are. They feel naked. They don't have any identity. So now they feel like life isn't worth living if they don't have that nice condo. They don't have that BMW. They don't have those nice clothes. They feel like life isn't worth living at that point. But they really don't understand that that's where life begins. Because now your journey has begun for you to start seeing who are you really. For you to start finding fulfillment and doing and actually being who you are, than having fulfillment in what society is accepting you for what you've done. See, we can't do things to be accepted by society because society honestly doesn't even accept itself. So why would we do things to be accepted by a programming that is designed for you not to even really like yourself? See, the programming is designed for us to feed in it more, for the programming to get bigger. And that programming feeds off of us. But that programming doesn't help us. What helps you is you being you. What helps you is that you identifying with who you really are as a person, and you fulfilling that, and you living that. Like I said, we get caught up in this illusion of, 1 second, water break. We get so caught up that we really forget about God's divine mission for each and every one of us. And I think that's where the emptiness comes from. Like I said, you go out here and start, for anybody who's ever lived a life that they thought they wanted, and something happened, and they had to pivot. And if you pivoted willingly and you eventually looked up, and although your life was different, you find yourself in a much better place. You know, those stories are not that many, but they're out there. And those people have a much better appreciation for life. They live life to the fullest. And they're out here helping people. And however they were put here to help people. Because that's what I ultimately believe that we're here for, is to enjoy the human experience for what we're naturally put here to do. So now, imagine somebody who was put up against life circumstances, that something happened, and they didn't willfully give into it. They didn't willfully bend. Guess what happens if you don't willfully bend? You break. And we've seen it so many times. People who have mental breakdowns. That's where mental breakdowns come from. That's where overexhausting, that's where being overworked, that's where burnout, that's where all these things come from. It's not living in your true purpose. Haven't you seen like people in all these other countries? Like imagine somebody who, like look at Messi or Ronaldo, you know, one of these soccer players, one of these great soccer players, who was really put here to play soccer. You know, they were playing since a kid, didn't nobody influence them, they just were put here to play soccer. That's how they help heal the world, is through the entertainment of playing soccer. Look at these people playing soccer. You can take everything away from them. As long as they have that soccer ball, boop, 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 kicking that ball, they're in joy. You can't tell them put it down. 8 days out the weekend, it's only 7, they're playing soccer. The joy and fulfillment that they have of playing soccer should be the same enjoyment and fulfillment that you have in anything and everything that you do. You can't tell them put that soccer ball down. It should be the same way that they tell people you shouldn't stop dancing. You know, if you're a professional dancer, not talking about in a club, I'm talking about like some type of ballet, some type of artistry dancing, you know? Or if you're an open speaker, if you're a speaker, you're a poet. Or if you're a natural healer, that should be something that you're always doing, that you can't get enough of, because this is where you get your fulfillment from. You know, it's that saying that they say, your purpose or whatever you were put here for, you'll be able to do for free. You'll be able to do just continuously and not get paid for it, and you'll be happy about that. I highly believe that's linked to living not in the illusion. Because when you live in the illusion, you're not allowed to really do what God or source intended for you to do. It's impossible. Society is not ran by source. Again, society that we live in is not ran or governed by source. Source has higher ranking, but the society that we live in is not governed or ran by source. So in that, if you're winning in society without going through source, you're going to end up spiritually bankrupt. You're going to end up stressed. You're going to end up tired. You're going to end up living in the illusion. Because you're living in the illusion of what society has told you, meaning that you're now not living in the truth of what source has put you here for. And anytime you go against source, or anytime you're not aligned with source, these things are going to happen. Now imagine someone who had this good job, this corporate job, or whatever the case may be, the condo, the nice cars, the clothes. Imagine they had this job, but they knew that this was just a job. And they didn't align themselves with this job. They still align themselves with source on the back end, you know, of knowing who they were. They knew that there was something greater to life. They knew all these things. But they just kind of played the game of society. So these people, this select group of people who's like in the middle, when they may lose their job or something may happen in the economy, something tragic, whatever the case may be, when these things happen, they're not so much on the deep end as everybody else. To them, they're almost thankful and grateful because now this is the proverbial push out of the nest that they've been waiting for in a sense, but they were probably too scared to really embark on because of being comfortable with what society has granted them. So to wrap it up, we must give up the societal expectations that's been put upon us in order to live the true life that we were supposed to live. We must give up the illusion that's been placed upon us. Remember, all this is an illusion. You have to strip all this away and really come down to who you really are. Really, really who you are. And find that. And when you find that key, that's when life begins. When you break out of the illusion. It's your favorite cousin. Y'all be safe. Love and blessings.